The hum of the radio receiver was the only breath in that sealed room beneath Ford Island, a soft, electric purr beneath the sharper crackle of static, like distant gunfire buried in snow. Outside, December 7th, 1941, dawned with that peculiar Hawaiian gentleness. A wash of amber light spilling through the high slits of the operations room, dust motes dancing above the brass ring dials, and the green glass face of the frequency selector. My fingers, already slick despite the chill of the AC, hovered near the tuning knob frequency, 6,395 kilocycles, standard for long-range HF monitoring under Fleet's Circular 88B. The headset pressed into my ears like twin anvils, and through them, beneath the usual whisper of atmospheric noise, came something else. Not Morse. Not even close. It began as a low thrum, irregular but rhythmic, rising in pitch, then falling again like the distant surge of 1,000 propellers chewing the sky. I frowned, adjusted the gain, and leaned closer to the logbook open on the steel desk, its pages already smudged with graphite and coffee rings. The morning watch had been quiet. The Oklahoma and West Virginia lay serene in their berths, and the only transmissions had been routine. A weather update from Midway, a fuel request from the Nevada. Routine. Always routine. But this was different. Unidentified. Persistent. I glanced at the wall clock 0738. The second hand ticked with mechanical each click echoing off the riveted steel walls like a heartbeat in a coffin. My pulse matched it. The noise grew clearer, definite engine signatures now. Layered, overlapping, unmistakably low altitude. My throat tightened. No Japanese naval exercises were scheduled within 2,000 miles, and no U.S. carrier group operated this close to Oahu without prior notice. Yet the duty officer, Lieutenant Haskins, stood just beyond the glass partition, laughing with Ensign Riley over coffee, both in shirt sleeves, both wearing that lazy Sunday smile, because, of course, they thought it was a drill. Admiral Kimmel had ordered a communications simulation. That morning exercise, Aloha Echo, meant to test the responsiveness of the Naval District's early warning net. Dummy signals, false radar blips, mock distress calls, Ebrigon canoe. Everyone relaxed. The entire command posture had been downgraded to training posture at 0600. No live intercepts. No scramble protocols. No alert status. Just paperwork and simulated chaos. And so, when the real thing came through my headphones, an eerie, metallic drone swelling into the strident howl of dive bombers, I hesitated. Not out of cowardice. Not out of incompetence. But because doubt is heavier than certainty. And the weight of contradicting an entire command structure in one breath felt like trying to stop a battleship with your hands. What if I was wrong? What if it was part of the drill a new layer? A surprise scenario? Haskins had mentioned unannounced variables. My palms burned cold against the steel console. Sweat traced a slow path down my temple and vanished into my collar. I reached for the intercom switch. Stopped. Unclipped the headset just enough to hear the room only the low murmur of banter. The clink of a spoon against porcelain. Normal, safe, routine, and then, through the open vent above, unmistakable, the shriek of a falling bomb. Distant, but real. Earth-shaking. My hand trembled back to the mic, but Haskins turned then, caught my eye, and grinned. Still chasing ghosts in the ether. Peterson. He winked. Relax, it's just Echo. They've got fake zeros buzzing Sector D realistic as hell. AI nodded. Swallowed. Said nothing, because he believed it was a drill. So I didn't correct him. The headset went back on. The noise in my ears was no longer just engine sit. Was voices now? Fragmented Japanese. Urgent. Rising in pitch like men, screaming into the wind. I recognized the phonetic cadence from intercepted training tapes. Tora, Tora, Tora. They weren't testing us. They were here. Outside, the sky tore open. Flames erupted over battleship. Not the contained bursts of pyrotechnics, but gouts of orange fury that swallowed masts whole. The glass in the partition rattled. Someone shouted, Coffee spilled. And in that suspended second, as the first bomb struck the Arizona with a sound that felt more like the earth cracking than an explosion, I realized my silence had already become complicity. I didn't move, didn't call out, just stood there, fingers curled around a dead switch, listening to war begin through headphones, still tuned to a frequency no one would ever check again. The air thickened with a stench of cordite and burning diesel, sweet and suffocating as if the ocean itself had caught fire. Through the narrow slits of the operations room, I watched black smoke coil into the morning sky like serpents summoned from the deep. My hands remained frozen on the console, slick with sweat that no longer felt like mine. The headset still pressed against my ears, but the voices inside had gone silent either, because the Japanese strike wave had passed beyond radio range, or because, in the chaos below, every transmitter on the island had fallen silent, abandoned, or exploded. I should have sounded the alarm. I should have slammed my fist on the emergency klaxon, ripped the phone off the hook, screamed until someone listened. But I didn't. Not then. Not even as the Californian listed to starboard, her decks awash in flame and oil, men leaping into water, already shimmering with gasoline rainbows. Something deeper than fear had taken root in me, a paralysis, born not of indifference, but of the terrible realization that truth, once doubted, becomes indistinguishable from noise. Haskins was running now, shouting orders that made no sense. Secure the code room. Check the encryption wheels, as if ciphers mattered while bombs tore through steel hulls like paper. Riley stood wide-eyed in the doorway, his coffee cup shattered at his feet, his uniform smeared with soot he hadn't even noticed. No one looked at me. No one asked what I'd heard. They assumed the drill had bled into reality, as training sometimes does. And in their assumption, I found a terrible shelter. The clock on the wall still ticked. 802. Each second, a hammer blow. I forced myself to log the intercept, not that anyone would read it now, but because procedure was the last skeleton of order in a body gone to ruin. My pen dragged across the page. Unidentified airborne units, low altitude, Japanese operational chatter confirmed. Bearing approx 065 degrees. Time of initial contact, 0742. The ink bled where my hand shook. Then came the second wave. Not the muffled thunder of the first. This was deliberate, surgical. Bombers came in tighter formation, engines screaming like banshees through the smoke. The concussion rattled the rivets in the ceiling. A support beam groaned. Dust sifted down like ash from a funeral pyre. Somewhere deep in the island's bowels, a generator failed, and the lights flickered. In that momentary gloom, I saw my own reflection in the glass of the frequency panel. Pale, hollow-eyed, a ghost already haunting the wreckage. I thought of my brother in Pensacola, writing letters on Navy issue paper with a crooked smile and dreams of flying wildcats. I thought of the mess cook who'd given me an extra slice of pineapple that morning, grinning like peace would last forever. And I thought, God forgive me that. If I'd spoken up, if I'd overridden protocol and trust and rank and fear all at once, maybe none of this would be happening. Or maybe I'd have been laughed out of the room, accused of hysteria, and the result would be the same. That uncertainty was the true horror, not the bombs, not the fire, but the knowledge that even in hindsight, I might never know whether silence was sin or salvation. By 0830, the Japanese were gone. The sky emptied as abruptly as it had filled, leaving only smoke and silence and the low moan of wounded men drifting across the harbor on the tide. Haskins finally turned to me, his face streaked with grime, eyes red. P.S. Did you pick up anything real on the air before this hit? I looked at him, at the ruins behind his shoulder, at the logbook lying open like a confession. No, sir, I said. Just drill traffic. Echo protocol. He nodded, exhausted, relieved even, as if my lie had restored some shattered equilibrium. And maybe it had for him. Not for me. In the days that followed, the investigation would come. Of course, questions asked, transcripts reviewed, careers buried under blame. But no one would find the truth in the logs, not because it wasn't there, but because by then the world needed heroes and villains, not technicians who hesitated in a room full of static while history burned outside. I stayed at my post, rewound the tapes, checked the frequencies, wrote reports in careful, sterile prose that said everything and nothing. And every night, long after the salvage crews stopped pulling boaties from the Arizona, I'd lie awake, listening to the silence in my ears, the absence, where engines once roared, and wondered if, in that one suspended minute between hearing and speaking, I had chosen duty, or simply chosen myself. The clock still ticks, it always does, but I never hear it the same way again.